legit, like, said, hey, this place where I have, born and raised and socialized, like, doesn't fit me anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to up and move somewhere new. You're still getting a sense of who you are, what's happening, and things are changing constantly. So, like, of course you're going to be...
But here's what's interesting, what happened today. Remember when I came down to, it's all about source and all about helping others, but helping me get in touch with source. And being in tune, and I was practicing hyper presence, and being in tune with the current now, the current present, the current moment. There is no worry, anxiety, depression at all. There's none of those things. In fact, those things don't exist at all. The closer to source, the closer you are to the present, to when I was just trying to be in touch with the wind in the trees. Just something as simple as watching the ant climb up a tree and being present with that ant. All of my fears went away, all my anxieties went away, all of thoughts about you, about my mom, about anything, worry about finances, nothing. In that present moment, everything was fiction.
Right.
The only thing that was real was the breath, as we hear the breath coming in and the breath going out, and as close as that was to presence, there was only happiness. There was only, and it stemmed fire, almost like what I kept coming down to is, and I had this dream. I fell asleep, and I was holding my mala bead when I fell asleep, and my dream kept going. You came from the future to the past, from the future to the past. Paradox, but it's all okay. And I had that dream over and over and over again while I was laying, and you were in it, like you were in the dream, and it kept saying, you came from the future to the past, from the future to the past. I don't know what that means, but that's what it kept saying in my dream over and over and over again.
Well, we have been exploring past stuff, so that makes, and past lives and all of that. So
yeah,
that
and it said, and you're in a paradox, but it's okay, is what my dream over and over said. And then I heard, what is your directive?
Ooh. And
that's what I heard.
And what? Ants.
And I kept saying it over and over and over again, because that's what the after like 4 or 5 times this dream over and over and over again kept saying, you came from the future to the present, from the future to the present. It's a paradox, but it's okay. Kept happening, and then just before I woke up, I heard, what is your directive? And I woke up and I was like, what is my directive? What is my directive? What is my directive? What is my directive? I don't know. So then I grabbed the tree, and I was like holding on to the tree, and I was like, what is my directive? What is my directive? And then the tree broke off with that little leaf. It pulled back and broke off with the wind. And instantly in my brain, my directive is, help people get closer to source. That's the directive, because closer to source is where the power is where the potent is where the where everything is, where your happiness is, where there's no depression, there's no anything.
And
living in that present moment.
And connection with source looks different for everybody.
Right.
Instead of having it be a dogmatic thing or a special teaching or something, it's so individualized.
Yeah, like
and
the
for
tree
us,
for
you
me.
You and I really connect with our nature. I mean, I'm just thinking about it right now. Like
the nature connection.
We're sitting under a tree. We're sitting surrounded by trees. And yes, there's people and cars around us, but like the connection with nature is how I get clear with myself.
And big time water connection.
Yes, and connect with source.
Yeah.
For myself, because all the other distractions go away.
Right.
And you can practice mindfulness anywhere. For me, it's extra
anywhere.
potent in nature, and that's when I can get the most clear as well.
Yeah.
But how amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, because, again, the dream, and I was in harmony. You know that big tree under that tree was just flowing, and as I was getting present before I fell asleep with this, I was thinking that the tree, as it was flowing, was nature, and that same flowing is happening in my body. And the tree don't know that leaf down there is flowing. The tree don't know that leaf is flowing. All those many leaves are like the cells in our body. You know what I mean? And the tree is more present than anything on this planet. And me being in tune with that tree brought me to such a presence only because I was aware of every movement on the tree. More aware than even the tree itself. And because of that, that's why I connected with it, and the directive was source. Get closer to source. Get connected to source. Even the tree, even the ants, even the wind, even jet skiing, playing the drums. I get close to source. Drums, meditation. I do crazy meditations with oils and with sounds, and but it's all to get in harmony with source. Because there's tools you can use to do that.
Yeah. And it's interesting, I think about so authenticity, we keep coming back to this and getting spiraled out, is, first developing awareness. I think of what you like and what you don't like. And if you're just starting new, that's okay. It could be
music. We connected with music too.
We did connect with music.
Yeah, music was a big thing.
Yeah, and it was about hey, here's something new. What do you think about it? And and that's where some of the
and I tossed music to you, and you're like, and then you tossed music to me.
I don't know about that one. But it's about a curiosity. So paying attention, being curious, developing a mindfulness with yourself.
This is good. Paying attention, being curious.
Mindfulness is a huge component.
Yeah.
But that'll be something we'll do a couple sessions on, I'm sure. And it'll just be interwoven.
Here's what I don't want them to get escaped into until we cover the mindfulness. Is not being mindfulnessly scared or protective of how you connect.
Right.
Mindful, we don't mean protective. When I hear that in this context, without knowing it seems sense. Like, I don't want to tell them about my love for Hallmark Christmas movies.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
So in this,
that's not what we mean by being mindful.
In this context, I was very mindful that my truth is that I have a guilty pleasure of watching and loving Hallmark movies.
Yeah.
And I just like any of the romantic comedy Christmas movies. Those are my favorite, even though I don't believe in most of the stuff that they talk about.
Yeah.
Or I don't buy into any dogma stuff. So it's a very odd
Maybe that's
thing for
why
me.
you like it though.
Maybe I get a little inside view of how some people think about the world. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Either way, I was very aware of well, this is true for me, and there's a little apprehension about sharing it, but then it just kind of comes out of my mouth because I don't hide stuff and very much anymore. But I'm
saying
also,
they shouldn't be scared of telling their guilty pleasure
to safe people.
To safe people, right?
This is where the mindfulness comes in.
Okay.
So it's about maybe doing a really small little thing for some people to check and test the waters of if I tell you that I don't like that song that you just shared with me, how are you going to react? And if you react openly, then okay, maybe then I can go to the next level. And
I react with, well, how about this one?
Right. But that's because you're safe and you're open.
Yeah.
Some people would be like,
oh, she talked bad about my music.
And then it might not be safe to interact that way. So it's about being mindful about who you share with, how you share, and honor and being mindful of how you feel. So for me, I know this for myself that if I say something that isn't authentic or isn't genuine or is in some way conflicting with how I want to show up, I will have a pit or a knot in my stomach, and I'll feel like some gurgling, and it'll get like upset. I mean,
you have a gut check.
I do, but I'm very kinesthetic, and so like when I am not in alignment emotionally and intellectually, and you know, when I'm not doing well or I'm out of integrity, I physically get ill. You know, I mean,
you have a kind of a body check.
I have a body check.
Yeah.
I have like, oh fuck, you screwed up.
Yeah.
Oops, there's kids walking by. Oops. Anyway, more education. It's just a word. Anyway. So that's how I know.
Yeah.
And so because I feel relaxed still that I talked about these stupid Hallmark movies, that I'm like, well, it's okay for me to share. And I feel safe enough to do that.
Yeah, because your body feels...
Because my body feels it.
Yeah.
But some people aren't even aware of that. I mean, I've taken a lot of years and a lot of time to really study this for myself.
Yeah.
But it's...
A lot of people are in their head.
Right.
Instead of in
and
their body.
And a lot of people are totally cut off from their bodies.
Yeah.
No, completely cut off.
Oh, okay.
And the throat is how we express ourselves.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
The throat chakra is how we express ourselves and speak our truth and voice our opinions and things. So being authentic is about just showing up first and foremost for yourself.
Yeah.
And if people are totally new to this, it's about just paying attention. Like, how do I feel right now? How do I think right now? What is my emotional reaction? Do I like this? Is this pleasurable for me? Is this not? Like, there's just a lot of curiosity.
Am I happy? Yeah. It's an internal check.
Yeah, it's an internal check.
Does this feel good?
Being curious.
Yeah.
And being open without a lot of judgment, of just like, let's gather information here and see what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then...
Yeah, I like that.
And
the
then
information
slowly
gathering.
checking it out with other people and trying different things.
Yeah.
To see, like, what feels good, what doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Is this place I, like, feel comfortable in? You know, how do I want to be? I don't know. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It's really funny because we were like totally planning on unpacking like our own process of the authentic thing, and it just turned into something totally different. I love how this happens with us, though. Is it like just takes on a life of its own?
Only because it's going deeper, and it's going deeper.
It's the next level and layer for us, even with going back.
Yeah, and authenticity is huge for me right now. Only because I'm continually in my meditations going back to the initial question 40 plus days ago is, who am I? Where am I? Where do I want to be? Where am I going? These are all asking authentic questions. And that's what I wrote down, you know, after one of our sessions together. I was like, what the fuck times 7, I think is what I wrote on the piece of paper.
You showed me that.
Yeah. Fuck being a spiritual word, by the way. But what times 7? Not in front of the kids. But it was because at that stage I was like, I never really, most of my life was built around what I thought other people wanted me to be. And who I was supposed to be as a father, as a, you know, you have these labels. And am I a father? Yeah, that's authentic. But what kind of father I am? That's digging deeper. That's going another layer. The label is like the surface.
Right.
But then there's so much more. What kind of father is he? Because you could even put another label. Bad, good, whatever. That's a label. But can you go even deeper than that? How do you show up as a father? Well, I do this, I do that. Okay, those are other labels. Well, then go deeper than that. Why do you show up that way? Then that goes even deeper than that. How do you show up that way? You know what I mean? So how, why, what literally transplanted my life from where I was to 2,500 miles away. But in that initial process started with, who am I? And that sparked a whole nother, and still, even being, here for 22 days and counting on this video is more and more and more, who am I? How am I showing up? Who did I used to be? Who did I get caught up in that wasn't me? Because a lot of times we get caught up in a whole new character based on a relationship or a job or, a city or a role. We get caught up in the role so much that we're now actors, not in our own life, but in another play, is what it felt like for me.
We have a party.
Okay, yeah.
We have a party that is getting ready to set up right here.
Descend upon us.
Yes. So I think we might be getting kicked out in a second of this little spot.
Which in perfect cueing fashion.
I know it is around time for us, but...
And us being authentic in this is being in a park and connecting in nature. Being open here, because this is kind of a vulnerable space, as you can tell.
In some ways. And in some ways it's extra safe. I mean, look at this tree. Okay, so let's talk about authenticity for a second.
Yeah.
Trees don't give a shit
no.
what they look like, and they just are. And so if they grow, and like this tree has all these amazing growths and knots, and it sprouts different places, and they just show up. They just are. They value each other for their unique branch and way that it comes. And so if we could be, I think there's been a couple memes and poems and things that have gone around online. I mean, I've seen it through Facebook and stuff myself, and I love them. I think I have one of them about honoring each other like we were trees, and honoring the uniqueness and the beauty, because when we see a tree with like the gnarled roots and like these beautiful knots and all this, the intricacies, we're like, ooh, I want to learn more about that. But when we show up in human connection, we're like, ooh, I don't know.
Yeah, that scar, that knot, or whatever.
Yeah, we have got scars and stretch marks and things from living and from life, from motherhood, from birth, or from growing a knot, or gaining weight as protection and then losing it, or whatever else it is. We have all these unique histories that we somehow feel like we have to hide, but those
makes
things
it beautiful,
and those things are what make each other beautiful,
and
that's
unique.
what makes us beautiful.
And we're all unique in that way.
And so showing up authentically is starting to own all of that.
Own your scars too.
Owning all of it. Authenticity is a double-edged sword. It helps us feel powerful and connected to ourselves and connected to other people. It's the only way we can really connect deeply or intimately with anybody else, is if we're authentic ourselves. And there's a fear of intimacy in our culture, because there's that perception of loss, there's a perception of not belonging, there's a risk associated with rejection, with going against any status quo, anything that's different. And so if we're authentic and we're intimate in our connections, and intimacy I think also has a bad rep, because intimacy, when people say that, they often associate that with sex. And yes, I mean, my belief, there should be intimacy within sex, but intimacy is about meeting people without guardedness. It's about connecting at a deeper level, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, and maybe that includes physically as well. And there's physical intimacy with touching, but it's not necessarily sexual in nature. So there's a difference. But our puritanical roots in the United States, at least, has screwed up a lot of that. You know, it's embedded in our culture to provide a lot of separation within ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're talking about living authentically and from a heart-centered place, which is what FireHeart is about, it means that we have to confront all those different levels and layers of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to confront all the different aspects of our armor that we have either put up ourselves as a way of protecting ourselves from whatever experiences we've had, either as a child or socially or work-wise, or that we've just been programmed with, so that we've chosen to put on, or that's been trained or passed down.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different aspects of what it means to be authentic, and it means having courage to, first off, stop and notice, develop awareness.
And you're going exactly where I wanted you to go, in that tell us how to be more authentic. And you start with awareness.
Yeah, awareness. Because in order to know who you are, sometimes it means being aware of who you're not. Because
and I've always heard personal development people say, don't focus on what you don't want.
Right.
They're always like, just focus on what you want. Don't ever stray away from the don't want. But
in this case, and I think it's,
it's
I think
just getting more depth of who you are.
Right. And if you're just avoiding everything, that's fear. It's so fear-based.
Right, yeah.
But to focus on what you want and who you are requires
you to have taste, what you don't want.
Right. And sometimes you don't know what you want until you don't know what you do want until you figure out what you don't want or what doesn't fit.
And a lot of times you go, I know I don't want what I got right now.
Right.
Yeah,
and so that's great. Then you're
start.
one step closer to getting to where you want to be and finding out who you really are.
Exactly.
So there's that.
So awareness is where it starts. And
so
then
awareness.
Yeah.
So you start by paying attention to all aspects of self. So, and I think this is too where people forget about authenticity in some ways, where we focus in so much on the external and different aspects of what's going on instead of focusing on what's happening within the different layers of ourselves. So it's about looking at what's happening in our mind. It's looking at what's happening in our emotional state. It's looking at what's happening in our spiritual awareness and in our physical body. And some people don't have access to any of that.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Start somewhere.
Yeah.
The easiest one for a lot of people is to focus physically.
Like a meditation or something?
No. I'm just even talking, well, it could be a meditation. It could be just a body scan.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So focus, paying attention by focus, how does my head feel right now?
That was one of the first things you did for me.
Was it?
Yeah. That's when when you did the healing. You're like, how does your head feel? How does your, go down and just mentally put yourself and do a check.
Yeah.
Kind of with your mind. And I've never really done that. That would have been helpful in a lot of doctor scenarios. Is to just feel, and I do that now a lot. Just do, where am I sore? Where am I, and do a scan. So
yeah, and so it's looking at it, so to just piece this apart. It's about looking at,
that's so simple to do.
Is there any areas of tension?
Yeah.
Are there any areas of pain in my body?
It's
over here.
Yeah, I know. About 45 days ago, we began a journey in personal development, trying to figure out who and what we are and how we develop ourselves. I don't know, because I want to say Sarah and I, but
then you can say that.
Let's see, the best way. Go ahead and stop it. You're a paladin, and a paladin has a sword. You know what I mean? A paladin doesn't have a cane or a candle. You have a sword. A monk can have a candle or a cane or a staff. You don't have a staff. Your weapon has a blade on it. Mine is just wood. You know what I mean? I will get you with blunt force. You will get me with steel or blade or cutting. You cut down to the heart. I push you into action. I push you. You don't push. You stab.
True.
You dig in. You right into the heart. I'm just gonna make sure I'm getting you where I need you in the right direction. It may hit you with a little sting here or there, but I'm not gonna cut you because I'm the monk. I use your force with you. You don't use their force. Their force comes into you and they get stabbed. Like, you don't move. I will move out of the way. I will, you know what I mean? You will come at me, you know what I mean? Because you enlighten people with their pain. You expose their skin. I keep their skin intact. You cut it open. Because mine is more gentle. Mine is more hard. Mine is I take the bug in a cup and let him out. You the bug. Don't fucking come back and tell your entire clan, don't mess with me. I'm like, let's do it a little more gentle. Take the cup. I'm gonna take you far away and make it hard on you, but I'm still gonna, you're like, and let this be an example, to all bugs in this place. It's a different spirit, but FireHeart, I think, has so much capability in that we bring both the fire, the warrior spirit, the cutting to the heart of the matter, because there's no way you can get there without exposure. A surgeon, does he sometimes have to cut you? He does, or she does. She has to cut you to get into that piece of cancer or whatever that is. It requires cutting. I would be more the masseuse. You would be more the surgeon. You would be cutting I would be massaging, or monk is more massaging. Warrior is more slicing and that perspective, but it requires both for healing. It requires being able to get in and seeing that cancer that's deep inside. That's what you do for me. That's what you provide for others. In your shadow workshops, in your interaction, I've seen you with other people, is you have a sword, but then they go, oh, here's cancer. Yeah, let's fix that. And how I can come along is help people heal in a loving way, let's wrap that up with a bandage. Let's work it out. Let me massage it a little bit. Let's rehab. Integration worksheets, the integration that we're going to do is all rehab. You're the surgeon. You come in and you help find the source of the matter. That's what fire does. It refines it. When you burn away the bark, what's left is the core of that log. And that's what fire does, is it exposes the core. Then a master woodsman can take that core that's left over and turn it into a beautiful piece of furniture or a staff or anything useful that actually helps. And that's what FireHeart does. Exactly that.